Hello and welcome to the Beards and Bitcoins podcast. You can find us on Twitter under the handle @BeardsBitcoins. Our content is available in audio-only versions on every major platform and also on our YouTube channel, Beards and Bitcoins. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and also subscribe to the YouTube channel for all the latest updates. Today, we have a very special episode for you, as well as we will be interviewing Andreas Antonopoulos. He's a renowned Bitcoin author and speaker who's passionate about bringing revolution and change to our current toxic financial system. And if you're a believer in altcoins, you definitely are going to want to listen to this episode because Andreas makes many good points about the future of altcoins and cryptocurrencies. We're also debuting two new segments to the show, one called Newsbreak, where we cover a current event, and another called Token Time, where we discuss a different coin every week. Drop your suggestions for different coins for Token Time in the comments on whatever platform you're listening to the podcast on or watching us on. Everyone, enjoy the podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Beards and Bitcoins podcast, the crypto podcast for the man's man and the ladies that love them. As always, today I am joined by my co-host, JChains, and you actually recently almost killed yourself, and I would like to hear more about that.
Yes, well, hello and welcome. Actually, I didn't almost kill myself. I almost got killed. I was riding my motorcycle. I was going to actually go visit my friend, and we were going to head over to the gun range. So threw my 9mm in a backpack, threw it on my back, got on my two wheels and started riding. And I was, you know how they always say like most accidents will happen less than a mile from your house?
Yeah.
Well, it's true. Well, this one did. It's true. Or maybe like right around a mile. But so, I mean, I was just riding in the middle lane on a 3-lane road, minding my own business, and some jerk decided to do an illegal U-turn and tried to do it. There was a truck in the left lane, kind of in front of me, and then so we were just going down the road, and this guy did the U-turn, and he knew that he had to beat the truck, and he got over to the middle lane, but when he did, he slowed down, and Kapowski.
Where is that guy now?
It was a hit and run.
Oh no.
Yeah, so like how it happened was I made contact and I started to slide out. I slid off like onto the right. So like this whole side of my body was like all road rash. But I actually visibly heard his tires peel off and drive away. Now there were, people who saw the accident. They tried to follow this guy, but apparently he drove so fast to the expressway, got on the expressway and was long gone. No traffic cameras at this particular intersection, so I think kind of is what it is. Luckily, my insurance company was awesome, dude. They paid the claim out in less than 24 hours, and that's the story of me almost dying. So I'm glad that we're able to have this conversation.
I am too, because if you had died, that would have been bad for the podcast.
You'd be a solo show. That at that point, you could probably go to what you've always dreamed of and call it Beard and Bitcoin.
That's right. That's right. I've been wanting to get rid of the S off both Bitcoin and Beards. You're the S, Justin. It's you. Well, I'm glad you're alive, though. Definitely glad you're alive so we can keep doing this podcast, because the people love it. I love it. But we can't do it without our sponsors. So we definitely want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, both the Monarch Wallet and also to our new sponsor, Manscaped.
Yeah, absolutely. The team at Monarch, man, they're working hard. Beatles and his team, and they're bringing you guys the best. It's the one app really that you can access all of the best crypto services right there from the palm of your hand. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's right. You can buy, store, spend, and earn. And don't forget swap. Swapping is the best. You can swap Bitcoin and most ERC20 tokens among a ton of other features.
Yeah, man, that's super cool. Make sure that you check out monarchwallet.com today. Absolutely.
And additional support for the show comes from Manscaped. They help you groom below the belt.
Ooh, yes, they do, fellas. So listen up. We all need to take care of the hair down there, right? So make sure that you checked out manscaped.com today for some more information. on your below the belt grooming stuff. They've got the Lawn Mower 2.0. It's got proprietary skin safe technology, so this trimmer won't nick or snag your nuts, boys, which means manscaping accidents are finally a thing of the past. So trust us, your balls and your lady, or that special person in your life will thank you.
Make sure you guys head on over to manscaped.com where you guys can get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BEARDS. That's right, BEARDS, and that is manscaped.com, code BEARDS.
Yeah, 20% of free shipping. That's good.
That's right. Well, we got a couple new segments of the show we're going to start today, and the first one is called Newsbreak.
Newsbreak.
That's right, guys. Today, we're going to go in depth with a popular story going on in the crypto space. And what's the story we're talking about today, Justin?
Well, I think that we were going to talk about something that is very important. Are we talking about the private keys?
We're talking about proof of keys today, right?
Not your keys, not your crypto. That is very important. So if you're listening, make sure that on January 3rd, you pull every bit of crypto that you have sitting on an exchange off, and don't let those third-party services hold your crypto, man. Put it into a private wallet, put it into cold storage, and be safe.
Yeah, so proof of keys, we talked a little bit about on our live stream we did last night on my channel, BitBoy Crypto. We talked about the idea that, like, it's cool as an idea, but, I mean, here's a question, Justin. Do you keep crypto on exchanges?
No, I don't. I keep I keep most of my stuff in cold storage. Anything that I would ever keep on an exchange is something I know that I may want to flip, or I'm going to try to do some building, some scooping. But for, I would say, 95% of all the crypto that I have in my portfolio is safe on a wallet in cold storage. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, it really the only excuse for having crypto on exchanges would be if you're a full-time trader or if you do swing trades, whatever it might be. Then you're going to have your crypto on exchange because you can't trade in your own wallet. There are some decentralized exchanges, but we all know they're not great at this point. But, you know, there's so many people that I meet in crypto that are new. They don't watch YouTube videos every day. They're not on crypto Twitter. And they don't understand even the difference between Coinbase, Binance, and a private wallet.
It's interesting well, that's the thing, man. You know, we talk about this and with mass adoption and nothing is just easy. And when you take the responsibility of controlling your own finances, maybe it's not supposed to be easy. You know, that's why the banks maybe make that money off of you, because they're taking that risk and they're doing that job, making sure that your funds are safe and that they're federally insured. But when the revolution hits and you're controlling your own financial destiny, you know, you've got to make sure you know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I recently did a video with Quinn where we went down to Dragon Con and we talked to people. And one of the things that happened during that video was that we tried to give Bitcoin to a guy. And by the end of it, he was so frustrated with the process of downloading a wallet and having to verify through emails and getting the Bitcoin sent to him that he literally turned down free money. We were going to send him like $20 in Bitcoin. And he literally turned it down. He said, you know what? This is why people will continue to use banks.
I mean, that makes a ton of sense, man. We've said this a number of times, you know, in the interview that we're excited to bring you in this show with Antop. That's one of the things that we talked about, you know, briefly was, you know, the ability for anyone to use crypto, whether it's to send it to a friend, whether it's to use it for a transaction, the ability to do that easily as swiping a credit card is right now, that has to happen, or else people aren't going to use it because it's not easy.
Yeah, and Andre's definitely had some interesting thoughts on that. We're going to get to that interview here in a few minutes, but it's a phenomenal interview. I think you're going to learn something definitely by watching it. He had some really interesting points about Bitcoin maximalism, Ethereum. He even talked about the animal kingdom. So if you want to hear what Andres Antonopoulos thinks about the animal kingdom and biology, you listen. Or if you like.
Did you ever watch that show?
Bill Nye the Science Guy? No. I hate all things Nye.
Animal Kingdom. It was on. It was a Netflix show. It's basically
TNT.
like
it was on TNT, right?
Oh, I missed it on that. I catch it. I watched all the seasons on Netflix and then over on Amazon Prime. But the show is pretty awesome. So you haven't checked it out. It's like Sons of Anarchy, but with less motorcycles and more fun.
We need more motorcycles. Right now, I'm watching the show Silicon Valley, which is very interesting. Have you seen that one?
I've seen it on there, but I've not.
It's so good, and they're only 30-minute episodes. It's a very easy watch, and it's hilarious. The guy from The Office that played Toby, I think Toby on The Office, is on the show, and he's probably the funniest human I've ever seen. His name is Zach Woods. And I've been trying to watch interviews of this guy in real life, like on talk shows, and he's the exact same person in real life, or either he's just like a complete comedic genius that has everybody fooled all the time. So definitely give those shows a watch.
Back to really quick before we jump to our next segment. Back to January 3rd, proof of keys. Make sure that you pull all of your crypto off of an exchange. I just want to reiterate that point.
Not your keys, not your crypto.
I love those, the different ways people say it. I like to say not your keys, not your coins. People that do say, not your keys, not your crypto.
Also, not your keys, not your Bitcoin.
Someone tweeted me because I put it out there, the little warning thing today. Somebody responded on my Twitter, not your keys, not your Lambo, which I agree.
Ooh, very interesting.
Tough to start that Lambo if you don't have the keys.
Lambos do take an actual key. It's very interesting. You can think of the private keys as the key to your crypto Lambo. I like that. All right. Well, it is time for our other segment that we are starting on the show now. Good. Take it away, Justin.
Token time.
That's right. We're too poor to afford sound effects, but we do have the human beatbox, JChains.
Yeah, and I'll work on my styles and my sound effects. Maybe one day
It was good.
The guy from Police Academy.
Was that not you? I thought that was you. I watched it and I was like, this is Justin without a beard. That's what I thought. Yeah. So okay, guys, we are starting. Yes. Token
time is going to be about a coin of the week, a token of the week, a project of the week. A lot of people, say, Bitcoin is a coin, ERC20s, those are tokens, all this stuff. We understand that there is a difference, but for branding and namesake purposes, it's just token time.
That's right. Token time. And this is not a time when we get together and smoke weed, as just became legal in Chicago. That's token time, which we will not be doing on the show. But token time, let's get started. What token or coin are we talking about today?
I think for the very inaugural episode of this segment, we start with the king, baby. Bitcoin. BTC. Bitcoin.
That's right. You can't have crypto without Bitcoin. I mean, we all know that. And so since this is our first segment of token time, we definitely want to talk about Bitcoin. We do understand it's a coin, not a token, but Bitcoin has been around since 2009, and people have done studies on this and have shown that Bitcoin was the greatest investment of the entire decade of the 2010s.
Was it like 9 million% or some crazy number?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
But Bitcoin today, it's down a little today. Our current price at the time of recording is $69.71. It's down about 3.5% on the 24-hour. And the market cap is at about 126.5 billion.
Wouldn't you still like the 69 when you're 71? What? Sorry, family-friendly show. Sorry, guys. Hopefully that went over your kids' heads. Okay, so yeah, the price is down today. A lot of people are saying that the price is going to go down to 6,000, maybe touch the fives before we finally have this rally that everyone has been hoping for. So if you're listening to this podcast, you probably know what Bitcoin is. I would say you definitely at least have heard of Bitcoin, know some basics about it. But I thought it would be cool on this show to really talk about, what's in store for the future of Bitcoin over the next year.
Yeah, I mean, big event. In about 6 months, we've got the halvening.
That's right. So you say halvening. Some people say halving. What do you think is the proper way?
I like halvening. I like having the L in there. I asked you about that on the live stream last night. I like to put the L in there. I think that's the proper way to pronounce that word. And because some people like to say aliens versus aliens. You know what I mean?
Or kilt instead of killed. Yes,
or
I'm aware of this.
Quesadilla.
Quesadilla. Yeah. I recently came up with a new one. I can't remember what it was. But the point here is that I like halvening. The reason for that is because I think that when you say halving is already a word, so people get confused on what it is. If you say halvening, it kind of separates it. But what is the halvening? It is basically where the amount of block rewards that miners get for producing blocks gets cut in half. So it's going to go from 12.5 Bitcoin per block mined down to 6.25.
Mm-hmm. Making it that much more difficult to do the mining.
That's right. So a lot of people are saying that really the miners right now are the ones that are pushing the price down so they can accumulate while it's still profitable, to mine at 12.5, because once the price drops, or once the rewards drop to 6.25, just like anything else with supply and demand, when the production gets cut, the price goes up. So,
So what can we do about that? What can you do to eliminate the, because you can't eliminate the need for miners, but eliminate the effect that they may have on the system?
You can't. And the reason is because the miners are the whales. When people are talking about whales, I think a lot of people think like, oh, these whales are, huge investors that have a huge amount of Bitcoin, whatever. Well, now at this point they do, but a lot of these whales are miners, because if you got in mining Bitcoin from the very beginning when it was, pennies to mine, you could mine so quick when like the rewards were at like 50 Bitcoin per block, whatever it was. It started out at 50 and then it went to 25, 12. Yeah, so that's right. I think they started out at 50 Bitcoin per block in the beginning. You have a massive amount of money right now. You have a massive amount of Bitcoin. And over time, as the price of Bitcoin goes up and those people will diversify their holdings or sell their holdings, like they will become less Bitcoin whales. But, those are the people that have all the money. So it's not that hard for miners to manipulate the price of Bitcoin.
Absolutely. But that's the way the ecosystem works. And until we find some better ways to get around some things, that's just the way that it's going to be.
Absolutely. So, so we want to make Bitcoin the first coin or token that we talk about during token time, but we've got plenty of other segments we're going to have in the future. So if you want us to talk about your coin, drop us an email at info@beardsandbitcoins.com, or either you can check us out on Twitter and send us a DM at beardsbitcoins.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I'll do that.
Perfect. Okay, guys. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the reason why you came to the show today. Let's check out our interview with Andreas Antonopoulos. We are joined today by the one and only Andreas Antonopoulos. We're so excited to have you on the show. I've got a lot of questions that I've been wanting to ask you for a long time, and we're definitely glad to have you on the show today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely. You actually recently posted some stuff on Twitter regarding someone asking you for an interview on a podcast, and then they were kind of like trying to threaten you or something, saying that, that if you didn't let them be on your podcast, they were going to expose you or something like that. What is that?
Yeah. A day in my life, right? I don't take that stuff personally. It's simply a reflection of the fact that because I have a lot of followers, a high profile on social media, it attracts all kinds, and it's just what happens. It happens to anybody who has a high profile. It doesn't matter what you say, someone's going to be against it. And when people feel that they're anonymous, they act out.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we see within the crypto Twitter community is, just the sheer number. And granted, people are pissed off because their investments are down, but they just that keyboard cowboy, man, people just come out in full swing sometimes. It just doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah, and if 1 in 1,000 people do it, then I get 500 people a day swinging at me for no reason. I just spend a lot of money on therapy. It's I'm absolutely true. I do. It's Twitter is a frequent theme of conversation with my therapist. You have to wear emotional armor when you go out there, and help your brain understand that this is not personal, because our primitive brains don't know the difference between the village being nasty at you, which is a survival threatening event, and complete strangers on the internet from all around the globe being nasty at you, which doesn't really matter.
Yeah. The audacity that some people have. Oh, one thing I've noticed over the last several months, I mean, really ever since I got on Twitter, is that, a lot of the accounts stay anonymous. But for those of us that are out there, that people know what we look like in our faces, or, they might see this events, whatever it is, they love to attack our personal appearance. They attack they call me fat all the time. That's the one thing on Twitter that people attack me for. They're like, go eat a cheeseburger, or, whatever they say. And I'm just like, when people have to attack people's appearances, like, that's the lowest common form of critique. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to say something about the way you look or the way you dress or something like that.
Well, I completely diffuse that, because the only thing they could attack about me would be the fact that my hair is falling out, and I turned that into my logo and even trademarked it. So there you go.
Good your logo is a giant troll. Wow. That's
awesome.
Exactly.
That's good. I love your point of emotional armor. I think that's important. We all need to put on our emotional armor every day, and that's smart. That's something that you actively do. So good for you, man.
Yep.
So one question I want to ask you, I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong on this, I feel like you're, if not a pure Bitcoin maximalist, you're pretty close to it.
No, absolutely wrong. I'm not at all. In fact, I get attacked frequently by maximalists for not being a maximalist, which is really kind of hilarious.
You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
I fail that purity test too. I mean, apart from the fact that I wrote Mastering Ethereum, which should give you a hint that I'm not a maximalist, I also, way back, starting in 2014, started talking about the fact that as this technology develops, we're going to see a degree of specialization, and various cryptocurrencies and blockchains are going to specialize. And as they do, as they open one door and make a choice in one direction, there are real engineering trade-offs, and they will necessarily close another door and make that trade-off. And that means that they're going to have niches, and these niches are going to be occupied by different competitors. And we're not going to end up in a one system does everything and takes all, because that doesn't really make sense in this technology. And it's not a future I want. It's a future that I simply have observed evolving over time. And it's hilarious, because I was then accused of having this crazy idea that we would end up with multiple coins. And I said, first there'll be hundreds, then there'll be thousands, then there'll be tens of thousands. And the criticism has only gotten stronger, despite the fact that the data has only supported my opinion even more and more over time. Because now we literally do have thousands of chains, coins, tokens, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down.
Oh, can you imagine just the sheer amount of research and information collecting you'll have to do when there's tens of thousands of coins, if we get to that point, to make a solid investment?
Yeah, well, you won't, because the vast majority of them have no interest, no application, and no economic value, and that's fine. The long tail doesn't mean that everything on that chart is worthwhile or worth even looking at. But at the same time, we're not going to end up with one. Even at the top, it's going to be a space crowded with at least 2 or 3 competitors in every application niche you can imagine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the way it should be, because no one should have a pure monopoly over any one.
There's no natural. Yeah, there's no natural barriers here, or mechanisms to erect barriers that would allow anyone to build a monopoly. And that's one of the good aspects of this open market. And, the argument of maximalists, I think, primarily is that sound economic decisions will lead people to choose the hardest money. And I think that's absolutely true. Unfortunately, I've met people, and sound economic decisions is not one of their strong suits. So, So in a perfectly rational world, at which point I go, doesn't exist.
Right.
We live in a perfectly irrational, emotional, tribalist world where people make choices that make no sense to those of us who are making a different choice. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So very interesting hearing your thoughts on all that, because that, to me, what you're saying lines up with something I read in your book, which I'll talk about in a second. But you did recently make a video called where you talked about how it was a talk that you did where you talked about Bitcoin is going to be the new Bitcoin. And so I guess I was kind of basing that off of that video where you talked about there just really isn't anything to challenge Bitcoin at this point. So I guess I kind of mistook that for a bit of maximalism there.
No, not at all. So I said Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin because a lot of people are looking for the next Bitcoin. So this is the counterpart to the same argument, which is that if you understand that there are certain niches, and I use biology a lot as a counterexample or as a comparison because there's a lot of similarities here. All of the choices that make Bitcoin unique are choices that put it squarely in a very specific niche. In that niche, it dominates. And it dominates because it occupied that niche early enough and it has a good enough fit, which means that trying to occupy the very same niche when you're a minority is very difficult. It's very difficult when a new species comes along and tries to occupy a niche that is already well occupied. So it's much better to think about spaces where there isn't already a successful player. And the thing about parallel distributions, or where you have 2 or 3 dominant players at the top and then a long tail, is that those market dynamics don't really change. They stay the same usually over decades. And the only way they change is if there's a massive shakeup where the entire space gets flipped on its head. It's very, very rare. And in fact, you'll see people say, well, yeah, but what about MySpace and Facebook? And one of the funny things is they keep bringing up that one example primarily because that's a very rare example. You can't find too many other examples other than MySpace where a company that has that kind of early advantage loses it without a major shakeup in the industry. So in the same talk, I said that Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. I also said, and Ethereum is the next Ethereum. So if you're trying to make an Ethereum killer to occupy the same space that Ethereum already occupies, you're working against brand recognition, number of developers, documentation, number of libraries, number of applications, and those are very high odds.
Wait, we've already seen 12 Ethereum killers. We've already seen
exactly. And that's the hilarious thing, though, is that while Ethereum was trying to be the Bitcoin killer, which was a very brief period, a whole host of wannabes lined up behind it to be the Ethereum killer.
Yeah. And we've seen plenty of them. The latest one is Tezos. I recently did a video called is Tezos the new Ethereum? And of course, like, no, it's not. You know, like that's what people want to hear. They want to hear that their coin is gonna, you know, we know the tribalism and it's different than
Yeah, people are looking for something that's going to have a breakout market movement. And, you know, I don't really dabble in the investment side of things. I look at this purely from a technology perspective. And these are not pure technologies. And they're not pure investments. They're a mixture of the two.
Absolutely.
And so as a result, you have to understand the technical side of things. And if you're a developer and you're developing on Ethereum, simply switching to another platform isn't as easy as you think. There's a lot that comes with that. So for something else to gain on Ethereum, it has to also peel off developers. That's not an easy task.
No. And Tron tried it. Tron tried it, and they were pretty successful at bringing people over, but now they're actually seeing a large influx of people leaving and going back to Ethereum. So,
and you're going to have those ebb and flow moments, you know, and you see that with the dominance of Bitcoin in the pure money space. And I think we're going to see the same thing play out in every space where a clear application case and fit emerges. Right, we've seen it in 2 right now. I think we're going to see it. The next one might be stable coins, where you have a clear application space and everybody tries to do the same thing just in a slightly different way, and we'll see who emerges victorious. I really don't care, honestly. I'm more interested in whether we continue to provide great choices for people to have freedom to choose the platform that works for them for whatever they're trying to do. And as long as we have that choice, and that choice gives people power, freedom, and privacy, then we're winning. Because what's the alternative? the alternative is the shitty banking system. and,
Yeah. No joke.
and we are the shakeup in this case to shake up their distribution that is solidified into a few big winners.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. I think that is something we're trying to do, but it is much more than that. It's not just the banking system we're trying to shake up. I mean, it's the totalitarian control of governments that we're also trying to shake up.
Absolutely.
Centralization. Yeah. I know that's something that you're, very passionate about. I recently watched one of your talks where you talked about the German people fighting back against their cashless system. And I've done a lot of videos talking about cashless society and how dangerous that is. I'm actually a season ticket holder for the Atlanta Falcons, here in Atlanta. And we had the first stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the first stadium in the United States to go cashless. And they have reverse ATMs where you go in and you put in your cash and they give you little temporary debit cards. And it's all in the name of convenience. And I would just like to kind of get from your perspective and your opinion, like, what is the danger of the world going cashless?
Well, the danger of the world going cashless is that once you remove the only peer-to-peer bearer instrument that is truly anonymous that's left in the analog space, then you're left with no choices if the government decides to crack down. And none of the alternatives are particularly easy. So cash is still the great exit. It's the relief valve for freedoms, for exercising your freedoms. And it's something that people in Hong Kong recently experienced when they used their subway tickets to track them. It's something that the entire Muslim part of China is experiencing, where China is currently committing the world's largest genocide against Muslim Uyghur people, with concentration camps with more than 1 million people in them.
Crazy.
It's completely crazy, right? And the world is silent on this. And we're seeing these things happening around the world, and it's not that difficult to imagine a future where this happens in the United States. And so or in any country, the difference between freedom and totalitarian regime or dictatorship is one wrong election, and it's happened in almost every society around the world at least once, and it can easily happen here. It can easily happen in Europe. In fact, it happened in Europe in the 1990s in Yugoslavia. And you can see these things where you can go from a normally functioning society to civil war, genocide, or dictatorship at a drop of a hat. Cash is one of the big relief valves. It's one of the ways that you can organize opposition to these things. It's also one of the last remaining bastions of freedom. And so it's very foolish to eradicate cash, especially when our best alternative, which is open, public, blockchain, digital cash, isn't ready yet for the number of people we need to serve.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, it's still too volatile and just not quite ready.
Not ready on any level. We need better technology. We need better interfaces. We need better wallets. We need better education. Push comes to shove, we're going to make it work. But let's hope for a slower transition.
Yeah, I mean, because we know grandma's not going to remember her seed phrase. All these things, like you said, a lot of things need to change. It's got to be easy. Our parents, it needs to be just as easy as swiping a card, and then we can advance things a little bit more.
Right.
Well, one of my, I did a video recently, top 5 bold Bitcoin predictions for 2020, and one of my predictions for this year is that this year in 2020 we're going to get, if not the moment, the beginning of the Netscape moment. People refer to the Netscape moment with the internet. That was when the internet became usable. And I don't know if it will be popular, but I do believe whatever that thing is, and no one really knows what exactly it's going to be. Is it going to be an app? Is it going to be a protocol? Is it going to be a platform? We're going to have something this year that's going to get developed that's going to make, using Bitcoin easier. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there are certainly lots of contenders, both in Bitcoin and outside Bitcoin, that are aiming to do that. I think in Bitcoin, probably the most promising candidate for that moment is the Lightning Network. And the pace of development in the Lightning Network continues to accelerate. One of the interesting things that happens there is because Lightning is able to use the security of Bitcoin, but not require the kind of lockstep consensus development, the developers of the various platforms that operate on the Lightning Network can innovate without coordinating, and that allows for much, much faster innovation. So you can introduce a new technology, for example, in C Lightning and not in LND at the same time, and it will work when it works and where it works. That ability to push the innovation at the edge, to decentralize effectively innovation, is really great, because within blockchain consensus development, you can't do that. You can't just say, I'm going to follow a different set of rules than everybody else on Bitcoin. Yeehaw! Well, you do, but you end up with a fork of one. So that's one of them. I think the other one that, again, mostly people are laughing at and seeing as silly, especially in the Bitcoin space, but I think is very meaningful, is the emergence of DeFi, decentralized finance applications, specifically things like decentralized stablecoins, but many of the other applications, and the general level of development that's happening in Ethereum. And where it might come, I think, is games. That's a very good candidate in my mind, where an in-game economy for a popular game that just for some odd reason becomes kind of mainstream fad, a bit like some of the games of the last decade became huge with kids. Having an in-game currency that's actually a full stablecoin or blockchain or something like that, and becoming a mainstream moment. We'll see.
We will see. So you've written 4 books, Andreas.
6, and I'm writing my 7th.
Whoa, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so Mastering Bitcoin first edition, Mastering Bitcoin second edition, which was almost a half rewrite, The Internet of Money volumes 1, 2, and 3 that released 2 weeks ago, volume 3. Mastering Ethereum, that's the first 6, and I'm currently writing Mastering the Lightning Network.
Nice.
So when is Mastering Ripple due out?
I was going to ask you that because you have to go 1, 2, 3.
I'm not that interested in Ripple. I'm not going to bash it. You know, they can do whatever they want and do their own thing. I'm not that interested in it because for me, it really represents something that caters to the needs of banks, and I think banks already have enough. I'm much more interested in the technology that serves the other 6 billion, which has been the rallying cry from my work and something I've been trying to talk about for the past 7 years.
Well, that, you put that in your back pocket because that would be a great April Fool's joke. My latest book, Mastering Ripple. Don't call it XRP. Make sure you call it Ripple, and it will go more viral than anything you've ever seen. I actually, lastly, I'd like to get your thoughts on this as we wrap up here, because it is very interesting what you touched on, how XRP and Ripple, they're helping banks. In my opinion, I don't feel like long-term, like over 10 years or so, that really XRP and Bitcoin can coexist, because if Bitcoin really takes off and if cryptocurrency and tokenization really becomes the way of the future, and, a recent Deutsche Bank analytics report or projections report said they think by 2030, everyone will be using crypto. It doesn't make sense to have a coin that is specifically used for transferring fiat across borders when eventually the goal is to not have fiat. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I disagree. I think, if anything, just for the use of governments, and not only will things like that continue to exist, but they'll probably drag on for decades, several decades. In fact, for the same reason that your local government office still has a fax machine. And they do, and every now and then you'll run into that. And for the same reason that, a whole bunch of countries around the world have cavalries that aren't helicopters, but actual horses. Some technologies never go away completely. They just lurk in the shadows, or they're used for like very, very odd applications. I don't know if you heard recently that the nation's nuclear weapons will run off 5-inch floppy disks until 2019, in fact.
Wow.
So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the obsolete architecture of centralized banking continues to run for decades as a parallel to a more but again, it will mostly be an oddity, and it will be the kind of thing where when they ask you to use it, you'll curse and groan, just like you do today when you see someone ask you to send a fax.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because a lot of the companies that hold on to those technologies is the government itself. You know, a lot of their divisions
exactly.
too. Yeah,
right.
So,
right.
Well, Andreas, well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a super awesome interview. It's great getting to know you. Can you just tell everybody where they can find you at?
Yeah, sure. My internet handle, Aantonop, Antonop. Antonop on Twitter, Antonop on YouTube. My website is antonop.com. Almost all of my work is free, open source. You can share it, mash it up, reuse it with attribution, and just get it for free.
Awesome. Are we going to see you at any conferences this year? You going to be in Miami?
I only have one conference planned at the moment, which is in Vienna in April. But on my website, antonop.com/events, you can not only see where I'm going, but also you can sign up for a mailing list that will send you a mail only if I'm coming to the specific area that you check off when you subscribe. It's a minimal spam mailing list.
Awesome. And if you guys would like to receive a fax from Andreas, make sure you just click the button that says fax only communication.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. I will jump on my horse carriage, go down to the telegraph office and send you a fax from there. They have the latest technology.
Yes.
Awesome,
coming soon, singing telegrams. All right, Andreas. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you guys later.
Take care.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We truly appreciate you and the support of our sponsors. So thank you so much. You can find us on social media, on Twitter. Our handle is @BeardsBitcoins. We have a YouTube channel. Please make sure that you subscribe there. And you can find us on email always. The address there is info@beardsandbitcoins.com. Everything will be in the show notes. Make sure you also head over to our website, beardsandbitcoins.com, to learn more about us, stay current on shows and events, as well as sign up for the 21 Bitcoin Best Practices Guide. And it is totally free. So head on over there today, please. And thank you. Well, we will see you next time.